nervous about this one. Right, hi guys, it's George from AWTUK, and today we're going to be talking about how much does window film really cost. So, I know this is probably a soft topic for a lot of people, which I don't really understand. I'm very upfront with how I price things. If you want a price off me, you come to my website. That's if you're based in Essex, the southeast, etc. Then I'll give you a price, and I'll be upfront with a price, and I might give you a price range. I might price it in stages. Anyway, that's besides the point. I'm very meticulous with how I price things, and this is the way I do things. Not everyone does it the same, but what I do know is as an industry standard, there's kind of a range of how much people price things, and often it's done by the square meter. I like to add travel on the hourly, and of course my survey costs, which is also done on the hourly, the same as the travel. So without further ado, let's get into this. So the first point I'd like to touch on is, why does every single window film website say get in touch for a free quote? Now, the first reason is probably fair enough. Every house is different, therefore having a real installer assessing what your requirements are allows them to give you an accurate price on what they would like for the job. Now, the other reason is a bit less fair. If no one publishes their pricing, then no one can be compared. If you're not upfront about your pricing, then you might catch the odd customer off guard, and you could command ridiculous prices and they wouldn't even know, which is fair enough. You price your jobs how you think you should price your jobs. But this is why I have the window film calculator available on my website. That just allows you to put in, some rough measurements, what your requirements are, and it spits out a little price for you. So as it stands right now, obviously I'll do an update on this video probably in a year's time or so, but my minimum charge starts at £175. That is just to make it worth my van leaving the driveway. So sometimes when people have got smaller jobs, say one window and it's a tiny square, they just want a bit of frosted film put on it. Well, by the time I get round there, I survey it, I have my travel, etc. Sometimes it doesn't meet that minimum threshold. It might be, say, £135. So by the time I've loaded up the van, gone and done the job, and then, come back home, I need to have a minimum threshold to meet, really. So that's why my minimum charge sits there, just to kind of filter out any small odd jobs that, aren't worth my time doing. If it's friends and family, often I'll just be like, look, don't worry about it. I'll just come around and do it for free. But, there's a clear distinction between free and charging money. So that's my minimum charge. That's how I price things. A typical residential job, say you've got, I don't know, maybe the whole back of a south-facing typical residential property you'd see in England. You're probably looking at, like, say, 2-3 bedroom house. You're probably looking at, anywhere from £500 to maybe £1,000 plus, depending on what film you go for. My £500 mark would probably be on the lower end of the scale, because it just totally depends on how many windows there are. Obviously, if they're all split up into small panes, often that can inflate the price a lot, as I do charge per pane also on top of my square meterage, because once again that takes my time. Doing the smaller windows is harder as well, but I don't obviously adjust the price that much for the difficulty, because by the time I get one pane like that done, or say I get 2 done, I might have been able to do a big window. So it just really does depend. Whereas for something like a conservatory or a skylight, depending on whether it's external or internal, say a typical conservatory, you're probably looking at just over £1,000, all the way to, 3,000 plus, depending on the size of conservatory, the intricacy, what film they want to go for. Skylights and lanterns, similar sort of price bracket, depends on what film they go for. Obviously a lot of the external stuff has to be edge sealed, So that does also kind of have a bearance on what I charge, but yeah, that's probably what you'd be looking at for your conservatory. So yeah, obviously there's a variety of things that can change the price. You know, like I said before, the amount of panes, what film you use. That's why I give a staged quote. So often when I go and survey a job, I'll run a customer for a variety of films, and then we'll kind of pick out where they sit in terms of what film they would like, and then I give them a quote for, tends to be 2 to 3 different options. Sometimes it's just one option if they know what they want, and I can sometimes provide that on site, but I like to be meticulous sometimes, so I'll send them an email with the quote on it, or obviously WhatsApp. Another one that obviously has a large bearance on how much I charge is the kind of glass you've got. If I walk onto a job and I'm surveying it and I can just see it's going to be a pain in the arse, like it's got wooden frames or the windows are knackered or whatever it is, say they're lowy, surface 2, I might have to go on the outside. It really does depend how dirty it is. If I do walk into a home and it's an absolute hovel, I'm not going to sit here and lie on camera. I do price that in because A, it's going to cause loads of contamination to get onto the windows when I'm trying to put the film on, and I don't really like to be a cleaner when I'm trying to install window films. So oftentimes if it is a hovel, I will send the cleaner in before, you know, I price the job up. Sorry, not before I price the job up, before I do the actual job, because it just helps speed things up. Say you've got a conservatory and you know, it's absolutely filth and it hasn't been cleaned in 10 years, you know, I'll get someone to come in and clean it before I come in, because just taking that initial layer of dirt off obviously saves me a lot of time, so I have to price these things in, which is when the quote starts to become toppier and toppier, is when these things start happening, because I've had residential jobs where the customer's very meticulous with how they clean things all the time, and you go in there and, you know, you get it done twice as quickly, so obviously I've got a price for that. So why I survey every job now before I price things, once again, it allows me to be more meticulous, which means my margins are a bit more clear to me, which just allows me to run my firm at a better standard. If I don't survey things and I do it over the phone like a lot of companies, a multitude of things can go wrong, which can of course, you know, kill my word of mouth. But also I just want the customer to be clear on what they want, which leads to greater customer satisfaction. I price things up a bit more fairly. I always tell the customers, look, it's done in this way, this is how I price things. I kind of show them how I'm doing it, even sometimes when I'm pricing it up, and it just allows me to be a bit more fair. Total transparency, start to finish, and, you know, by the end of it, the customer is often satisfied. You know, you can't make everyone happy, but that's what I try to do. Right, and obviously I'm nearly finished with this video now, because, you know, I've spoken enough about pricing. I'm sure you're already bored, but 2 things I want to say. Number 1, I'm not going to commoditise myself. Window film is an amazing addition to your home. It's often not thought about, but when a lot of people find out about what it can offer them, they start to think about it a bit more. Blinds and curtains are great. I give my blinds guy loads of work, but window film shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be put on first. Helps, you know, extend the longevity of your home, makes it more comfortable, and it can give you privacy. There's obviously many other benefits, but that's why I'm not the cheapest quote. And like I said before, not being the cheapest quote allows me to run my firm to a much better standard, and you get a much more premium product. You get what you pay for often, and that's what you get when you go with AWTUK. If you do want your own quote, then obviously just visit the website. You can fill out a quick form that will come through to my email or my admin's email. We'll get back to you hopefully within 24 hours, and I can either give you a rough estimate over the phone or via email, or if you just want to go straight to the survey, I'll come round, I'll have a look at what you've got, and then I can get back to you at a proper price. Anyway, that's enough from me, and I'll see you in the next one.